All right, everybody, today I'm showing you how to make an Airbnb experience. I got my camera, got my computer, got you. Let's go. All right, so what we're doing today, we're gonna look at Airbnb experiences. So I've got the computer here. We're gonna show you what it looks like for you who maybe does not have an Airbnb experience account first, so you can kind of know where to go. And then we're gonna hop into my account so that we can actually make a real one. Try to keep this relatively short. Again, try to keep it under 10 minutes. Last video I said like but 1,000 times, so drink every time I say but anyways. So we're gonna get into it. So first thing you do, you go to Airbnb, obviously, go to host an experience. So at the top right corner, it should be, if you're doing it on a desktop, I don't know what it looks like on mobile, but you go to host an experience and it's gonna bring you up, it's kind of like a PowerPoint that it shows you. So it's gonna earn money leading people on activities you love. So go down, you can watch some videos, all this kind of stuff. It's cool. You don't really need to go through this stuff because it's gonna bring you through what you need to know as you press let's go. This is the kind of slideshow that I was talking about. Learn about our expectations, learn or create an experience, and submit for review. So those are the three main steps. The first thing that we're gonna do is learn about what their expectations are for an experience. So they're gonna give us examples of what are and what aren't experiences. And then we're gonna create it, basically make up whatever we want, and then we're gonna submit it. The submission period can take a little bit of time. I don't know if it says anything new at the end, but when I first did it, it took months. And then the second time I did it, it only took a couple days. So could be anywhere from 24 hours to 6 months. I don't know. Could be anything. What is Airbnb looking for in an experience? Knowledgeable, passionate hosts, obviously. Participate hands-on, usually hands-on, doesn't have to be hands-on necessarily. They just announced online experiences. So that's gonna be something that we may talk about a little bit, but not too much because I don't really know. I'm applying right now as we speak. But basically they want something unique, and they're gonna say this a lot. They want unique. So don't just think like, oh, I'll drive you around the city or something like that. I mean, although there probably are experiences like that, it needs to be a little bit more personal and more unique. Something that you wouldn't be able to just, something that somebody wouldn't be able to do on their own. Next, what we're not looking for, I think this is the most important thing when you are applying. You want to make sure that you do not fall into any of these categories. So large and impersonal tours. Do not have it be super huge to the point where you can't even talk to somebody individually. So for me, I kind of push it because I go up to 10 for some of my photo shoots, and 10 is really difficult if I have 10 people. However, I can still connect with each one of those people individually if I try really hard or am skilled enough socially. It's still tricky though. But at the same time, I am doing individual things with everybody because we're not taking pictures in one big group. We're taking pictures individually of everybody or in couples or whatever they want to do. You can have co-hosts for these. You can have, I don't know how many, what the limit is, but you can have multiple co-hosts. It's best to keep it to one. So you can have multiple and maybe have you break up into like, oh, if you do a certain hour, it's Todd. If you do a certain hour, it's Emma or whatever. I'm just making up names. But you could have that, but I would not have it be like you have a group of people come with you and lead, because that's just confusing. A service, i.e. like transportation to the airport, do not do that. They will not accept that. And if they do accept that, I have no idea what they're doing. Something that the guests could easily find on their own. This one's kind of meh, because like I'm a photo shoot in Pike Place Market. People can do a photo shoot in Pike Place Market if they want. They can buy a camera, they can bring their phone, they can do whatever they want. These are things that anybody can do. But if you give them a little bit more of an artistic edge or something like that, you can kind of get into that. So that's the only rule that I would consider that could be possibly broken. Again, I don't know how strict they're going to be right now, but that would be something that I would look into. Start creating. So it's going to give us a little bit of like guidance on how to create it. And it's pretty easy. I mean, this is super easy process. So this is where you would sign up or sign in if you have an Airbnb account. So I am going to go to my Airbnb account. All right, so here we are. So we're going to create an experience. And the first thing you gotta do is look for your city. So for example, I'm Seattle. So I know that it's gonna be there, but there will be certain cities that are not. And so you can see it says, great, your city is supported. That will tell you if your city is supported or not. So, and this is where you could choose online. I'm not gonna go into online stuff right now because I'm still learning about it. If you want an online video, write me in the comments, like this video, let me know. Your theme, so you're gonna choose themes. So these are a lot of different things. Look at all these different themes. So racket sports, my goodness. So you can have everything. So there's so many, and this is just, this is all the categories. So this is all the categories right here, but there's a ton that you can do, explore. And if you can't find your exact one, just find something similar. You can also do a secondary theme, same thing. But let's just pretend like I'm going to do a photography one because that's what I'm used to. Where am I? I can't find it. Art, of course. There we go. Photography to photo shoot. There we go. Photo shoot. Because I imagine this is what most of you guys are going to want to do since you're following me. What it takes to host. So now it's going to give us a little bit more about what we need. So expertise. They are going to tell you that they want you to be braggadocious. Is that the right word? They want you to brag. So when you're an artist, activist, chef, or local expert, hosts represent a wide range of backgrounds and abilities. Don't be afraid to show your skills. So this is what they're really going to talk about. They want you to show your expertise. They want that to be at the forefront of your experience. Again, you can pretty much skip through these really quickly. You don't have to do these. So this whole category is something that you're going to want to look into. Access. This is the one that I've been denied for doing experiences before because that's what they want. You need to give your own unique perspective. So this is local. Think local. Don't think like as like a visitor or something like that. I want you to think, because when people go on vacation nowadays, most people want to be treated as if they're a local. They want to pretend like they're living there. So give them the tips and tricks that you would have living there. So like if you go to some coffee shop that isn't Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts or something like that, let them know and say, hey, I actually go to Ghost Alley Espresso, or I actually go to some other place, you know? Those are the things that you want to know and tell people. Access. This is the one, if you have special access to either a special room or a special view or something like that, that is where you can make it in Airbnb experiences. We're going to move on. I'm trying to be quick. Connection. So this one is a little bit more of your kind of like corporate kind of mentality. You want to have intimate conversations, inspire conversation. These are true. I mean, these are definitely true things socially that I think would help you. If you have the ability to hold a conversation with somebody, it's going to help you a ton. I, at the beginning, was not good, and this helped me be better at this. So I would suggest coming up with questions to ask your guests, because you're going to need a lot of them to talk, especially if you're going to do one longer than an hour. Now you're going to choose language, obviously English. You can add multiple if you speak them. If you have it, I don't even know what this means. Your intended audience. Okay, so solo travelers, honestly, that's not a bad one to do. But I would say I don't have an intended audience. I want to capture as many people as possible. I don't want them just showing it off to one particular person. If you are, I don't know much about this, so I'm going to skip over this part. Partner organization or nonprofit. Oops, no. If you have that, I don't know how to help you. I might look into that. If you really want to know, leave it in the comments and I could try to figure that out. But to be honest, I don't know anything about that. So expertise obviously is photography for me. So you can, I mean, there's a billion different things. So photographer, boom. And how many days a week you do? I would say you got to commit to something big. That doesn't mean that you can't get accepted if you don't, but I do think that you're going to be at the best possible chance of, you're going to have the best possible chance of being accepted if you say 5 to 7 days a week. I would not say I haven't decided. That I think is dangerous. So 5 to 7 days a week. Have you hosted this experience before? No, that one doesn't matter as much because you can get hired. But how long have you been doing your thing? I think this is kind of an important thing. So you can't just like suddenly decide one day that you're a photographer and do this. I think you're going to want to have to be a photographer for a long time. So 5 years is definitely going to be good. Okay, so this last one, which one best describes the experience? It's very unique. Guests could do this on their own, but I am bringing a unique perspective, or guests could do this on their own without me. So I have always said unique experience, you have to believe in yourself a little bit. So you have to believe that you have that unique experience. So I would suggest that. That's going to definitely help you going forward. But if guests could do it on their own without you, I think you should maybe reconsider whether the experience is worth it. Tell us more. So this is where you're going to want to tell yourself, this is what I'm saying, time to shine. Don't be afraid to brag. So this is where they want you to tell you all the qualifications, all the things that, all the awards that you've won, regardless of whether you think they are stupid or not. List them. List them all. Say you've been a photographer since the moment you picked up a camera when you were like a 3-year-old, you know, something like that. You want to tell people, because people, if somebody says, oh, you know, I've really picked up photography in the last couple of years, they're going to be like, oh, so you're not a photographer. So I would definitely suggest saying I have been into photography for 10 years or something like that. That would be good. If you have an exact amount, feel free to do that too. Now, I'm giving you these tips. I'm not telling you to lie. I'm telling you to just be honest. But if you want to sound the best, you're going to have to brag. So you're going to have to find ways to brag. This is just like writing a resume. I mean, like I was a card attendant and I wrote on my resume something like manages equipment or something like that, you know, something like that. Actually, I'm not going to write that. Don't write what I'm writing. It's just terrible. I wrote a little something. I'm hoping it'll just let me go. This is nothing serious. But be specific with what guests want and all that kind of stuff. Do not make it vague. So you want to be specific so that people don't ask you, because people are going to ask you a million things if you aren't specific. When I first did it, I was very unspecific, and it was, I mean, I get questions all the time about like, oh, can we take pictures at the Space Needle instead of Pike Place Market? And it's like, oh my God, no, of course not. This is a Pike Place Market photo shoot. But there was stuff like that. So be as detailed as possible. Now, it does have a limit on characters, I believe, but that is definitely something you want to do. This gives you good examples of what to do. You can look at my experiences for guidance as well. I'll link those down below. Where we'll be, so this is where you need to describe the area that you are going to be taking place, either your photo shoot or your experience, whatever that may be. So if you're going to be in Pike Place Market, say Pike Place Market. If you're going to be in the woods, you need to say you're going to be in the woods. All that kind of stuff needs to be together. If guests need to bring anything for their specific experience, you need to let them know, but otherwise you can select my guests don't need to bring anything. That's usually what I would suggest doing for experiences. People don't want to bring stuff, and if they do, they're going to forget, and then you're going to have to deal with that. So I would suggest keeping it ridiculously simple. A title has to be pretty short, so keep that in mind. It has to be quite short. It only can be 40 characters. So for me, I do photo shoot in Pike Place Market, and that's almost the max, you know, because this is how big it's going to look on the screen for people booking. So nice and short. I don't even know if photo shoot's one word. It seems to be up in the air. Let me know in the comments what you think. Photos. Now this one, you're going to need, if you are a photographer, you're going to need to find another photographer or a friend that can take pictures of you doing what you do. So, because they give you examples down here of things that you want. So you want to think, you're not necessarily thinking artistic showing. You don't want to necessarily show your work, although that is what I do. They're more so looking for behind the scenes action shots, like stuff actually happening on your experience, so that people know what they're looking for. So that would definitely be the thing that I would suggest. A cover photo is huge. The first experience I did, they actually used a stock photo for me. Maybe my pictures weren't good enough or something. They may do that, they may not do that, but the cover photo is probably the most important thing, because that is what guests are going to see. If they're booking on a phone, it's going to cover the entire phone, as you can see over here. It's going to be the entire screen. So it needs to be big, needs to be good. You can use phone pictures, honestly, that's fine, but they need to be good. They need to be so good and draw people in. They do have to approve your photo, so it takes a little bit of time for them to do that. So keep that in mind. You do not want to expect them to be uploaded right away. It will take time, sometimes days. Won't let me go to settings. Okay, so then I'm going to go into one of my own. Okay, so we're going into one of my experiences now that's already done, so you can see all these things. Meeting location. I would suggest choosing something that is really easily found. So something that maybe is one of a kind. If there is a coffee shop that there's only one of, that would be a great place to choose, because then people can show up early and get coffee if they feel like it, and maybe stay inside if they need to. That's probably the best option. I had a coffee shop that I met up at, and then it closed. So then I had to choose someplace else, and I'm still trying to figure out the perfect place. But yeah, so that's one thing to keep in mind. But people need to be able to find it. So you can leave them instructions, and I would definitely say explain parking and explain how to get there. So if there's a major highway, say that they need to get off there. Luckily, Seattle, there's only one highway, so I don't really need to say like what highway to take. And streets are one ways downtown, so it's kind of tricky. I mean, that's how it is in a lot of cities. But tell people to arrive early, because people will not show up on time. Lots of people will not. And if you're doing a group experience with other people, then you're going to be awkwardly standing there waiting with those other people. So I suggest, as much as possible, choosing an easy location and stressing the importance of being early. You can choose a minimum age if it's age appropriate for everybody. You can choose all the way down to 2, and that the parents can bring children under 2. Now, I believe you can choose whether or not it is free for kids under 2. I believe that may just be a thing. So it may just be free for kids under 2. I didn't specifically choose that. I think that just showed up for me. But that is definitely something to keep in mind. But please, if it's minors, they have to attend with a legal guardian. So it has to be somebody old enough. Group size, you can go up to 10. There are certain circumstances that you can make them bigger if you have like a concert, or if you ask, I think you can actually get it approved to a very large amount. I don't exactly know what the top is. Duration of your experience can be an hour to apparently 16 hours. I would suggest a short amount of time. I think a lot of people, an hour is a pretty sweet spot. 2 hours is another good one, depending on how long stuff. But personally, at least for my social skills, I can't talk to people for much more than an hour. And if I only have a couple people book, it only takes like 30 or 40 minutes to do the whole thing. So you can change these later, but I usually suggest an hour. And yeah, they say most experiences are under 3. I think anything over 3 would be painful for you and the guest. This is kind of like a default start time. You can do whatever start time you want. Booking settings. So I let everybody book up until the last minute, basically. If you choose a day before, you can see how you're missing like 33% of your business, 34% of your business. For me, I do this and it gets everybody. You don't have to go all the way to 0, but an hour gives you enough time. Given I'm lucky, I live very close to where I'm doing. I live close to Pike Place Market, so I can just walk over. But that's one thing to consider. And let's see, welcome message. So this is a very important thing. I think a lot of people don't take this seriously, but a welcome message is the way to get people to show up on time. So I've written a lot. You can take a look here. But the main thing is stress the importance of being on time. We will leave no later than 5 minutes after the meetup time. Remember, this is booked by others, and so be ready to meet some new friends, because those are the 2 most important things. People don't realize other people can book at the same time, and people, since they don't realize other people can book it at the same time, they show up whenever they please. So keep that in mind. Try to keep it somewhat structured, and I think structure helps with feeling professional on the customer's end. So the customer will feel like it's a little bit more of like a serious thing, and maybe take it a little bit more seriously. I keep my social media in here. I used to have my number in here, but then people started calling and texting me days before, and that was really annoying. So I figured I'd not do that. If you're not going to accept refunds within a certain amount of time, you should say that. For me, I don't really have a choice. Airbnb experiences don't have like a strict, you don't have like the option to be strict or not strict. So that's kind of up to Airbnb. I just like to say this in here so that people don't come to me and ask me. Booking tool, if you get here, this is something you can put on a website. I'll get into that in a different video. This is a team. If you have co-hosts or assistants, this is where you add that. Madeline Sith, that's my wife. She does not have blue hair anymore. Price settings, they try to keep, so you want to keep this, I'd say on the low end per guest, because it is per person. So for me, I do $40 per person, and you can see that it shows you how much you're going to make for doing that. They just came up with this new thing called group rates. That is something I'm definitely going to look into, because that means if I had a group that was like over 5 or something like that, they'd still have to pay per person. If I do this, they could possibly charge them less. For me, it's tricky because I already charge such a low amount for people that it's hard for me to take much off of that. Because again, I'm not making tons of money a year. I'm just making enough for my wife and I to make average salary, you know? So it's hard for me to not have the full price. So something I'm considering, but then I have to raise the lower price, and then solo travelers get affected. So kind of a weird thing, but definitely worth checking out if you're starting new. Private groups, you can have it so that if you want it to be like, if you want to have your customers have the option to only have them there and not have others book in at the same time, they can choose private. And I have a bigger price for private because I have an average of about 5 people per shoot, or at least I used to. So that is why I have it at 5. So if you have 5, then you can book it. It is still per person though. That's not a flat rate. This is just the minimum that they have to pay. And once they've reached that threshold, then they can consider it or choose to have it private. But if they still have 10 people, as you can see, they're still going to pay $390 for the full price of everybody, but they have the option of choosing it as private. Early bird, this is something that I used to have. If you select this, then people can save 20% if they book over, I think 2 weeks early. Yeah, 2 weeks before. Again, for me, it's really hard to do sales because I don't make that much. And if only one person books, you saw I was only making 31 bucks. Now that's great. I love making any money, but $31, take 20% off of that. I mean, we're starting to get into the is it worth it category. So something to consider. But yeah, so that's kind of it. I've talked for way too long, and I think the camera's about to run out of juice. So that's kind of a little bit about how to make an Airbnb experience. Again, if you want to see online experiences, let me know. I can do that. I'm going to be signing up for one right now, so I'll know a little bit more as we go. But hopefully this helped you. feel free to use my link down below to get a referral. Helps me, and potentially helps you. I don't know. That could be a lie. I have no idea. I have no idea how it works. Nobody's ever done it before. So check it out. I'm going to have lots of links down in the description below for merch, all that kind of stuff. Thanks for watching the video. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't know what to do with my hands, so I'm just going to end it. Okay.